I thought he hung up on me, but.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Fundraising 101, where we're going to teach you how to make hella money, all right? So, my name is Khoa Vinh. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Small Scale Fundraising Chair.
Hi, I'm Molyka, the Large Scale Fundraising Chair.
And I'm Kevin, your Campus Outreach Chair.
And I'm Carrie, your Media Relations Chair.
So, why are you here at this webinar? Well, hopefully you're here to learn about all the great stuff about fundraising. And through this webinar, we hope to convey to you the techniques that we as chairs use to orchestrate successful fundraisers and publicity. We hope to develop your skills so that you can plan and market a fundraiser more effectively and efficiently. Next.
So, the money we raise during our fundraiser goes to 3 different places: administrative funds, district fundraising initiatives, and Step Up on Seconds and Daniel's Place. Administrative funds is basically money for the club. The money that we need to keep the club running, all of it goes back towards our members. In order for any funds to be considered administrative funds, it has to be made or given by any Kiwanis International members. Some events include money from Dare Week, Quench Board's Thirst Fundraiser, and private club auctions. For district fundraising initiatives, we have UNICEF, which helps out children in third world countries by providing them with water, medicine, vaccines. Then we have the Kiwanis Family House that provides housing and transportation for families with children being treated at the UC Davis Medical Center. And lastly, there's the Pediatric Trauma Program that provides awareness about child safety and prevents pediatric injuries. Lastly, we have our local charity located in Santa Monica, Step Up on Seconds and Daniel's Place. It's a place where young adults with mental disability come to as a refuge and a place of hope. In turn, they're provided with resources such as therapy, vocational services, case management, etc., so that they can continue on a pathway of wellness and recovery. Next, please.
So now that we know what our funds go towards, we have a lot of fundraisers that we could do. We have a lot of types of fundraisers. Next.
Now, Khoa, I want to ask you, is mayonnaise a fundraiser?
No, Kevin. Mayonnaise is not a fundraiser. Next. But you know what is a fundraiser? All of these right here on the screen. We have Boone Walk fundraisers where we sell pre-packaged products such as kimbap or lollipops or cookies, stuff like that. We have Boone Plaza fundraisers where we also sell foods such as dim sum or tacos or bacon wrapped hot dogs. We have restaurant fundraisers where we go to restaurants and they give us a portion of the profits that they made during that day. We have TV tapings where we attend a taping of a TV show, of a popular TV show, hopefully, and they'll pay us for each person that attends. Next, we have Dare Weeks, where the general members of Circle K will dare anybody in Circle K to do something crazy and donate money to charity for it. Then we have concessions, where we work the concessions for something like a golf open or anything of the sort. We also have election day, where we volunteer at the election day booths or polls, and they pay us money for each person that volunteers. Next, we have family heads or godparent auctions, where family heads and godparents offer a whatever they want, and our club will auction off what they want. We have board fundraisers where basically general members money for stuff. In order to have a fundraiser, first we have to plan. Next, oh, You guys hear me? All right, cool. So where was I? So how to choose the right fundraiser. Well, I got a special acronym as to how you can choose the right fundraiser, and it's called BUTT, B-U-T-T. First, you gotta brainstorm. One person can't think of the perfect idea by himself. So usually it's best to brainstorm in a group so that you can have more ideas, because that's better. The more ideas you have, the more likely that one of them will be the right idea. Unique. You gotta make sure that your fundraiser is unique. If you have a fundraiser selling 85 degrees, there's probably going to be another org on Boone Walk selling the exact same thing as you, and that's not going to be good for anybody. And also, people walking down Boone Walk and Boone Plaza get tired of the same things being sold every day. If you have something like kimbap or I don't know, bacon wrapped hot dogs, then they'll be like, wow, that sounds interesting. I'm gonna buy that. Next up is theme. Special themes on holidays could commemorate the occasion and also be successful. For example, on Halloween, we had a Monster Pop fundraiser, and what we did was we dipped Oreos into melted chocolate and we decorated them to look like Frankenstein or a jack-o'-lantern or a ghost, and that was actually pretty successful. So definitely, if you have a fundraiser around like a holiday, then definitely think about having a theme. For example, on Valentine's Day, you could have something like a selling flowers or chocolates or whatever. And then next up is target. So try to choose fundraisers that the public or general members would like tacos or just any food in general. Like, just if you like a food, then try and make sure that other people like it too. So it looks like we got some technical difficulties right now. Anybody got any good jokes in the comment section?
Okay, so picking a time and date. An imperative part of a fundraiser is choosing the best time and date. You have to consider the availability of people to attend the event and or volunteer. Usually asking around for availability through a when is good form or polling on Facebook works. Make sure there are no time conflicts with other events. You may get a smaller turnout if there's a service around the same time. So don't forget to check in with other committees and see what they have coming up. Also, please avoid finals week. You'll overwhelm yourself trying to plan a fundraiser and study for your finals, and no one will show up to help you. So this process varies slightly between fundraisers. For instance, if the event is a TV taping, you have to account for the long duration of the event, so typically a Friday works best, since the next day is the weekend and there's no risk of have anyone having an 8 a.m. class. But if the event is a restaurant fundraiser, after general meeting on Thursday works better, since the club can just walk over to Westwood after the meeting ends. Next, on to permits with Khoa.
So permits. Wait, not permits. Cook nights, right? Yeah, cook nights. So for your fundraiser, you'll need to have, if you're selling anything that on Boone Walk, then you need to have a cook night. So for cook nights, usually they're in the apartments because apartments have kitchens and you need kitchens to make food. So be sure to ask around for apartments so that you can have somewhere to prepare all that food you're going to make. The bigger the apartment is, the better. Hopefully, this apartment will have plenty of tables and counters so that you can prepare the food. And if no cooking is needed and all you need to do is prepare the food, then the co-ops are a good option if you know anybody living in the co-ops, such as the co-ops on Landfair, because you can just make food on their giant long tables. Next, try to buy ingredients for the cook night the weekend beforehand. That way, it's not spoiled, hopefully. Go to Orange County or the 66 for cheaper groceries because Asian supermarkets for the win. And try to have the right amount of ingredients since underbuying supplies or overbuying supplies can reduce profits. Next, make sure you have enough supplies. I can't stress this enough because this could be the difference between your cook night taking 3 hours or taking 8 hours. Make sure you have multiple rice cookers if you're making anything like kimbap or sushi or spam musubi. Make sure you have multiple sushi rollers, multiple musubi molds, and etc. And also pans and those sorts of things. Usually my goal is for cooking nights to take about 4 hours. And yeah, next. So in order to sell stuff on Boone Walk, we need to get permits. So for Boone Walk permits, for Boone Walk fundraisers, we must have the signed permit on the table during the fundraiser at all times because the campus officials could always stop by and ask us for our permit. A request form for the permit can be filled out in Kirchhoff 105, the Seoul office, and it's best if this request form is filled out about a week before the fundraiser because you never know what might happen. Maybe sometimes your request might actually get rejected, and then you need to figure out how you can get it approved. Usually, Pam, our sole advisor, approves the permit about in 2-3 days. So if you fill it out a week beforehand, then you should be perfectly fine, and then you can pick it up anytime before the fundraiser. So if you get your request rejected, then it might be because you tried to sell perishable items. So on Boone Walk, you cannot sell any meat, dairy, or water-based grains. For example, you can't have rice paper because you need to soak it in water. To use it as food. Next.
So for Boone Plazas, there's less food restrictions. You're allowed to sell perishables as long as they're properly stored and are cooked. But there are more permits you have to worry about. First, you have to reserve Boone Plaza well in advance. Usually before the quarter starts is the best time to do so. This is done through the AVP. Next, contact the fire marshal at least 10 working days before the event for review of the temporary use fire permit. Make sure you have 2 copies of the venue diagram with you when you go. You can get the diagram at the Ackerman information desk. Just ask them about a Boone Plaza venue diagram and they should redirect you to someone. Then fill out a temporary food facility form. which can be obtained at the Seoul office in Kirkhoff Hall, room 105. And our Seoul advisor, Pam, will authorize it. After Pam signs off, you meet up with the environmental health safety personnel, which is in the same office as Seoul. Their office hours are on Thursdays from 1:30 to 3:30 p.m. Once you have everything, just bring out all your forms with you on the day of the fundraiser and go to Ackerman Information Desk to get tables and chairs, and then head over to Boone Plaza and set up. Make sure you have all the permits at the table in case anyone comes up and asks for it. Next. So, booking and reservations. Certain fundraisers require reservations in advance, especially working with outside organizations. You have to work out a date and time and how many people to expect. For TV tapings, usually Audience Unlimited emails us a list of shows and times. After a show and time is chosen, you need to call Zach, our coordinator, to see if there are spots available. And then, if so, book it. This must be done at least 2 weeks in advance of the taping. Then a follow-up confirmation is needed 5 days prior to the taping and on the day of.
Also for TV tapings, make sure that you are on time because they are very strict if whether or not you are late. Therefore, we recommend that you account for all that travel time from between UCLA and Studio City, and make sure that you guys are on time. Next up is restaurants. So in order to have a restaurant fundraiser, we gotta contact them somehow, right? So we gotta call the restaurants in Westwood, use Yelp to find their phone numbers, and find out whether they'd be interested in having a fundraiser and how much percentage of profits that they're willing to give us. Usually, I make a spreadsheet and detail whether or not they want to have these fundraisers and how much money they're willing to give. And obviously, the higher the percentage, the better. Then they'll direct you to fill out an application on their website or just send them an email. And then, yeah, usually restaurants would like a month notice in advance, so be sure to keep that in mind when you're searching for restaurants. Next. So in order to have Boone Walk and Boone Plaza fundraisers, then we need to have some prior funding so that we can buy ingredients and buy supplies and all that. Next.
So the cost of the food and supplies usually comes out of our personal pockets first. Then we fill out a reimbursement form, which can be found on our website, uclacad.org. Go to the website, go under resources, and you scroll down to reimbursements. And it should take you to this Google form page. Fill it out, submit, and then don't forget to give your receipts to the treasurer, who in time will write a reimbursement checks and you'll get your money back. Next.
So now that we've prepared all the foods that we made at cook night and got the permit and all that, now we have to know what to do at the actual fundraiser itself. So for Boone Walk fundraisers, usually what I like to do is I get to Boone Walk early at about 8 a.m. so that you can get a good table. Again, it's totally on you to decide what time you want your fundraiser to be from and to, but usually I like doing it early because getting a good table is very important. Then you have to be when you're actually selling the goods itself, you got to be energetic and happy. So make sure that people can hear what you're saying, and they might be annoyed if you're being super loud, but at least they'll hear you and they'll be like, oh, he's selling whatever. Also have a poster or something to indicate what you are selling and what the profits are going towards, like UNICEF or like PTP or like Daniel's Place. Also after each sale, make sure to mention, thank you for Thank you for being so generous and helping us out with helping UNICEF out. And then there's Boone Plaza.
So for Boone Plazas, it's kind of the same thing as Boone Walk. You have to be energetic and happy when you're selling the produce. You have to be loud so people know and hear what you're selling. You have to have a poster that's large and visible enough for people to know you're in the corner of Boone Plaza. You have something. What you want to do is get to Boone Plaza early enough so you have everything set up. You need to go to Ackerman and get your tables and chairs. You need to make sure you have all your permits in order. You need to make sure you have something to sell. So you need to get started on all the cooking and then have everything all set up. So by the time your actual fundraiser starts, there'll be food for people to buy. Make sure your volunteers have things to do and aren't just sitting around doing nothing. Alternate people around so people can have breaks and everyone else can get a chance at selling or cooking. Next slide, please.
So here are just a few miscellaneous tips that we came up with that might prove useful. So generally, candy does not sell that well compared to stuff like spam musubi or kimbap. It's still pretty, it'll still net you a profit, but not as much of a profit. Definitely stay away from stuff like Krispy Kreme because it's a lot of effort to sell, but it doesn't get you a lot of money. Make a pre-order form available so that people can like look on the event page and see, oh, I might as well just pre-order it so I can like I don't forget to buy whatever we're selling. Molyka?
Make sure you delegate. Please don't try to do everything yourself. Doing a fundraiser is stressful work and you don't want to overwhelm yourself and make it harder than you need to do. You have volunteers to help you out, utilize them. Don't sell weird food. Don't try to be experimental and try something new. It's always good to try something new, but make sure that people are actually going to buy the food because then you just have a lot of leftover. And make sure you're not selling the same food as another club on Boone Walk or that they aren't giving it to you for free, giving it to people for free. Like one time we had a Krispy Kreme fundraiser and another club was giving it out for free. I mean, we still sold pretty well, but still, please try to avoid doing that. Usually when there's Boone Walk fundraisers, there's a list of other fundraisers on the same day or within the same week. So check that out and make sure the other club is selling something similar.
Seems that we've are experiencing some more technical difficulties, so just bear with us. But yeah, generally that should not happen because when you're filling out the when you go to the Seoul office, they have a calendar which has the things that people are selling on that date. It just so happens that for that Krispy Kreme instance that the club never went through Seoul, which is kind of bad, but whatevs, still sold out. All right. So next.
All right. Hello, everybody. Kevin here. And me and Carrie are going to be talking to you today about advertising because what fundraiser would, be trying to sell things without having people know about it in the first place. So with that, let's begin. Next slide, please. So any major part to any fundraiser is that you got a flyer so that people know the fundraiser is happening. In my experience, with what we do, we like to print about 2 weeks ahead of time. However, please make sure, for instance, if you're printing from a specific source or specific company, please check ahead of time and make sure that you find out exactly how many business days that the particular flyering producer will take, because you obviously want to make sure you hit your deadlines and things like that. One thing that's nice about 2 weeks, given that you'll have your the company you've chosen will print it out on time, is that if you like should ever have, let's say you receive your box of flyers and maybe the company themselves cut out the flyers in an unappealing way, cut off some letters, maybe the words themselves came out blurry or it was misprinted, then you hopefully should have time to still reprint. So main takeaway lesson is like, don't do the printing last minute, because there's a lot of things that can go wrong, in particular with producing your actual flyer. Next slide, please. And so with flyering, within your actual article, that it's very important that the information that you put on it really stands out, but depending on the design that's on it. So if it's like black and white, you only have 2 tones of colors to work with, maybe like 3 if you're using like grayscale and it goes from like black, gray to white. If in that case, make sure that the information is uncluttered so that when someone reads it, they can maybe tell through like bolded letters or maybe italicized letters, like this is the name of the fundraiser, like Spam Mississippi fundraiser, and then date, this time, this price, so that everything is very like quick and eye-catching to the person reading it. Don't put everything like super small in, that's like unnecessary, so it looks like a dictionary. Or on the other hand, make sure that if everything's bolded and you can't tell what is what. And if the flyer itself is colored, make sure that the colors are of a good color palette. Make sure the colors work together harmoniously and don't just make your eyes bleed. If like everything stands out, then nothing stands out at all. Next slide, please. So here we have an example of a flyer poster design that's a little eye-breaking. So in this, you have like the pink at the top, and it's on top of like a cheetah print background. So already you've got like this weird mishmash of colors. And then you have like all these highlighted colors. So you have like the really bright green, really bright pink. And then at the very bottom, we notice that there's like a rainbow, like literally every single color. And it's really hard to read against the leopard print background. In the bottom left, the date, yeah, it's bolded. The color palette again is kind of iffy. And also I believe it's a word art kind of style design. And so overall, not the best. We got Obama's seal of approval here, but I don't think it's enough to redeem the entire flyer as a whole. If we go to the next slide, though, we'll see a different example here. With this is, I think they're both musical like performance flyers or posters. So this one, it's not black and white. However, it's like a lot of different colors. They all work together really, really well. If you look at the words city sound, they're on top of a whitish kind of like misty kind of background. Makes them easy to read, even with the background. The colors look nice. Like you got blues and reds and yellows, and it still looks really nice. And then on the date at the bottom, December 16th, 2013, it's in red, stands out against the black background. At the very bottom, as you can see, like there's pricing, there's the actual physical time, and there's like an age requirement and everything, and like the address of which to locate them. And so like everything there is very presentable, easy, quick to see. You go from top to bottom and you can see everything you need, and your flyers should try to do the same. Next slide, please. And so with flyering, with any of this, location itself is really important. Before you even have your fundraiser, people need to know it's happening, and then you need to be able to deliver that flyer to them at the place of which they're currently staying. So you should always aim for high traffic areas, along with understanding the time at which the traffic is like the highest. For instance, for UCLA, around maybe like 10:50 to like 12:30 is like one of the highest peak times, just because everyone's going to class, coming back from class, or going out to eat, or just like in general are awake and like active. At that like specific time, we personally like to target things like walkways, pathways, or like plazas, just because that's where everyone like usually like that's where their path takes them throughout their daily routine. You can also potentially flyer at like places of work or rest. So for instance, you can always ask like maybe a professor like, hey, I'd really like to flyer about my club within your classroom. It's okay if I do so. It'll only take 1 or 2 minutes. You can also try doing it in the dorms. However, With the dorms and specifically, you have to ask permission from an RA, and even still, it may or may not be allowed because if you put the flyers like on the actual doors, that would be a fire hazard. So there's like concerns there, but if you can like work out a compromise, it might work out. And so like ultimately just always ask for permission, because at the end of the day, if you're advertising something and you get in trouble for advertising, well, they're going to have your flyer right in front of them, and they're going to know exactly where you are, and you know, they'll be able to bust you right there and then. Next slide, please. And so actually flyering. Personally, I usually try to aim for like 350 per day for like a welcome week. However, that's like a start, like at least like a middle amount, 350. As needed, you might want to increase that all the way up to like maybe 600, so that you get like all that notoriety potentially out and everything like that. Technically, when you're handing out flyers, you want to make sure that if like someone grabs a flyer, let's say your event's on Friday and you grab a flyer from Monday, well, you know, like maybe they'll have to get that flyer and like forget about it. So that's why you keep flyering like all the days all the way up to your event. And then like technically the flyering should really focus maybe in like maybe depending on like the scale of your event, maybe 3 to 2 days before the actual event, just so like you get that very last like reminder to them to like, hey, come out to my event, like we're selling this and you should come through because you'll have a great time. You usually want to flyer, as I said, like a week in advance, just so that people can plan. Most people don't always do things like completely last minute. So by flyering a week in advance, at least for like especially like a busy college student, hopefully like by the beginning of that week, they can already like plan like, oh, there's like this fundraiser happening on Wednesday. I want to make sure that I stop by at this time of the day. And so like everyone's busy, so hopefully we can all increase attendance of your fundraiser by making sure that it is adjusted to the person's calendar. Next slide, please. And so as one is flyering, you should probably have a very, very specific etiquette, just because the way you portray yourself really affects and like I guess biases how someone sees the actual fundraiser or event. So always try to maintain like a cheery and polite attitude. Don't be like handing things out with like a frown, or like be handing things out and then they don't take your flyer and then you say something snarky behind their back. That doesn't work. That's not good. Like you might try to hand out flyers and people might they'll give you like the 500-yard glare, like they look straight ahead, like they don't even see you. And you know, that's fine. Maybe they're busy. Sometimes they'll put their earbuds in, and sometimes they'll like say something like really kind of smart towards you. You just got to ignore it. You know, you can't let them stop your momentum because you've got 350 to hand out in a single day. And so you can't let them stumble your flow. So speak confidently. When given the chance to elaborate, don't stutter or mumble. You have this, if you can manage to like fire someone down and like actually tell them about your event, they're probably more likely to actually go to your event and everything. And like, if you know what you're talking about, then that aura of professionality kind of bleeds off into your event. People think that it's probably well put together and it all works out. Make sure you give your information succinctly and eloquently, just so that you're probably going to be walking with them maybe for like 6 seconds. Got to give them the quick elevator speech and finish with a smile so that they know that at the end of the day, you know, you wish them well. And even if people don't take your flyer, you might still influence them regardless. Maybe they'll like, you know, they don't take the flyer, but it's on their mind, you know, like you gotta think optimistically. Maybe they'll take your flyer, maybe they'll show their friends, maybe they'll take your flyer and maybe they'll drop on the floor, but someone will pick it up. That happened. I remember once I went to the gym and I opened up a locker to put my backpack away into the locker, and I literally saw one of our Circle K flyers in there. So I was like, all right, I don't know how that got there, but someone obviously took it all the way from Boone Walk back to the gym. So, you know, you'd be surprised where it all ends up going. And so with that, I'll hand it over to Carrie, who will talk to you additionally about advertising.
Okay, so college students these days are always on their phone and social media, so advertising on social media is a really good way to get your event out there. One of the key components that you need before you can advertise your event on social media is a graphic. Whenever you make any sort of post, people would be a lot more drawn to it if it has an eye-catching image to go along with it. So even if you don't have any graphic design experience, you can easily make a graphic yourself. Some applications that I personally like to use are Canva and Typorama. You can access Canva on canva.com, and there's also an app for it, but I prefer using the desktop version just because it's easier to navigate and it's bigger than your phone screen. Typorama is only available through mobile, and it has less features than Canva, but it's still good if you want to create a really simple graphic very quickly. I personally like using Canva because it has pre-made themes that are suitable for any occasion or event, and they're usually, or most of them are really customizable, and both of these apps are free. A lot of things that Kevin mentioned previously about flyers can also be applied to graphics. So make sure to minimize clutter, use colors that complement each other, and just overall make your graphic look aesthetically pleasing. Some important things to include on the graphic are what it is, like what the event is, when it is, where it is, and why you're having it, and any other important information. Make sure you use colors, themes, and images that relate to what you're selling or advertising. As you can see in the UCLA Circle K Gives Thanks graphic below, whoever made the graphic used a red, orange, and yellow color scheme and added some leaves onto it for a fall and Thanksgiving vibe. And then if you look at the graphic on the right, it looks less professional, but I would still consider it to be a good graphic because it's funny and it gets the message across. If you don't want to make a graphic yourself, you can submit a graphics request to the Graph Tech Committee via Trello. I'm not sure if members are able to do this, but if you ask your committee chairs, like for example, if you're making graphic, if you want a graphic made for a fundraiser, you can ask Molyka and Khoa to help you submit the request. Make sure you submit the request at least 2 weeks in advance and provide all information necessary to create the graphic, such as the event and purpose, any text that you want on the graphic, and any specifics such as a particular font you like or a color scheme that you want on it, or just like any other preferences in general. And I suggest that for fundraisers, you request to have a banner size of the graphic for the Facebook event page, as well as a square size for any other social media platforms. Once you have a graphic, you can start advertising on social media. Almost every college student has a Facebook, so advertising on there is most effective in my opinion. It's also easiest to get your event out on Facebook because you can invite people to events and they'll get a notification. And most people in Circle K are part of other orgs too, so they have really diverse groups of friends. So when they share an event page, it gets out to a large variety of people and attracts attention from a larger audience. In the event page, you can include a really catchy and engaging description to draw people to your fundraiser. And I found that I'm usually more intrigued when a description has like jokes or puns, so you should try to do that. And in the description is also where you can include a pre-sale order form for your fundraiser, as Khoa mentioned before. You can also advertise a fundraiser on Instagram, Twitter, or Snapchat. I've noticed that advertising on here isn't as successful as it is on Facebook since the audience is more limited, but it's still good to utilize these platforms. Most of the time, I'll advertise fundraisers without you asking me to, but if you ever notice that I forget to, then feel free to shoot me a message on Facebook to remind me. And that's it.
So after we're done with, after you're done with your fundraiser or you're done flyering or whatever, then you gotta fill out a SERF. So why should we do a SERF? Well, first, SERF stands for Club Event Report Form, and it's helpful because our secretary, Calvin, needs to count up all of our service hours and all of our funds raised for his monthly MRF, which is the monthly report form. SERFs also are super useful because they're basically like saved in our like database of SERFs, so that we know what events we've had in the past. So if like in the future, for future fundraisers, then these SERFs are extremely helpful because they can tell you what went well for an event or what didn't go so well for an event. So who does the SERF? Generally, it's the committee chairs who do the SERFs, but sometimes they can just delegate it to the chair of the event. And then when are SERFs due? They are due at 11:59 on the Saturday after your event. So now that I've told you what SERFs are, now we're going to do a little demonstration as to how to do your own SERF. Alrighty. So, first we gotta go to Circle K's website, and under the resources tab, you'll find a SERF template right here. If you're PC, then obviously click on the PC one. If you have a Mac, then click on the Mac one, and download it. Yada yada. Have it right here. So here is the beautiful SERF. So on this first page here, it's the event information tab. And here it'll just have general information such as the name of the event, the date of the event, the time of the event. There's also a little funds raised here, but there's no need for you to fill out anything there because that gets filled out automatically once you fill out a later portion. There's also the event chairs, the location of the event, the mileage if you had any drivers, and the person filling out the SERF. And then there's also event contact and phone number. Also make sure not to fill out any of these cells here because those are automatically entered in from what you entered down in other areas of the SERF. It's working. Okay. So event tags. So basically, you'll check mark whatever whatever your event was. So if it was a fundraising event, then you put fundraising. Also put club hosted since it's by UCLA Circle K. Next up is member hours. Here you can put in the attendees of your event, who volunteered, and you can use this form right here to add members. So for example, I'll add myself, and I'll add Kevin, and then I'll give each of us one service hour, and it'll automatically fill up for total hours. Next up is Kiwanis family. Usually for our fundraisers, we don't really have other Kiwanis family members, but just in case you're K-fam or you're at a general, or it's like a general meeting or something, then you can just enter the name of the Kiwanis family club. For example, I'll put Santa Monica Kiwanis, and number of members, I'll put 100. That would be very nice. So for budget, here we have amounts raised, which is how much money we made in total from selling our whatever we sold. So for Kimbop, let's say we raised $500, but we spent $60 on supplies. So we enter in 60 here, and it automatically calculates for us. So if I made $30, it would go to net profit of $470. So that's pretty nice. So then here is how will the money raised be used. So if we want 100% of the money going to this marathon, then that's what we'll enter. Here we'll have driving information. So here we have the name of the driver who drove, the mileage to the event, mileage from the event, and the total miles per driver. And then here is for the treasurer to fill out as she figures out how much money to give the driver. And then here is the event commentary, which is extremely important because it kind of lists the pros and cons of your event. So here you'll type in the event summary. So webinar was lit, strengths, lit, weaknesses, none. But in serious cases, you would put your strengths. So for example, for a cook night, you would have maybe strengths, we made a lot of food. And then weaknesses, it took I don't know, 8 hours because we had too many supplies. We didn't have enough supplies. So and then here is what would you do differently if you did this event again. If you didn't have enough supplies, then obviously you would buy more supplies. All right, well, that's pretty much it. That's how you fill a surf, and then you just send it to the secretary or send it to the committee chair to send it to the secretary. Yes. Where am I? Okay. All right, so if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please message it in the chat window. Like if you have any questions about fundraising or about SERFs or about advertising and public relations, then feel free to answer it in the chat window. If not, you could ask us how our winter break is going. It's the thought that counts. Why aren't I seeing anything, jerks? All right. Anyways, if you are here at this webinar right now, could you please enter your name into the chat window and say just enter your name so that we can get your attendance? Well, Brandon and Diane, my winter break has been pretty good so far. I went to Disneyland for the entire day for free because of volunteering for the Disney Marathon. So that was pretty fun. I rode on the Tower of Terror. That was pretty great. And then just been eating a lot of food and watching a lot of Netflix. Yeah.
Hi, Molyka here. So just a reminder, don't forget we have an online fundraising committee meeting right after this. The links for the Google Hangout and the meeting minutes will be on our Facebook page.
All right, everybody. So we've come to the end of our webinar here. So thank you everyone for coming. I hope you all learned something valuable today. And, you know, we put these webinars on for you, the members. So we hope that we've bettered you in every single way we could. And if you haven't, please put a comment in the chat with your name so that we can put you down under having attended our webinar. We want to give you credit where it's due. And yes, I hope everyone has, you know, happy holidays, happy new year. And I'll hopefully be seeing all of you next quarter. And I can't wait to see you all till then.
Alrighty, adios, guys.
Bye-bye. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Thanks, guys.